Hello, this is Tim Wright. Welcome to Being Reintegrated. What I'm working on right now is a translation of Le Forester. I know I got a lot of projects, and that's because I focus on this stuff repetitively. Um, but Le Forester is going to provide us with the framework of conversation. So right now I'm reading over the first book, chapter 4. It's second to the last chapter of the book, um, to give a commentary. And so as I was going through it, they were talking about passes and how, there were feelings that were happening during the operations and everything. And I have actually gone through lots and lots of this actual work myself, so I wanted to give not some consolation, but some counsel to those who are going through this work. So usually in the daily prayers, you get into a place where you're pretty isolated and you have a commitment that you have to keep for, 9 months kind of thing. So what do you do during that time? You're saying your prayers, you're doing it regularly, you're even possibly operating, and you hit a wall. So that's what this episode is about. If you're involved in these kind of practices, you can do this sort of stuff to help you. I have two books. As you see, I've been doing this for a long time. So unfortunately, there's a couple of books that I recommend that no one did the work on, so I had to do them myself. They just weren't available. I mean, they were only available in PDF. So I had to become a bookmaker and then make books in order to have the materials that I needed to give to you on being reintegrated. So that book is Louis Claude de Saint Martin's Man of Desire. Now, in this book, which I translated using GPT, and of course you could give me suggestions and I will, I made the book so I can change them. So if you feel like something isn't written properly and give me an explanation or a blurb on here, this will be our work. But you'll see that the headings of the names in this book are based on the readings done by Amadou. I rely heavily on Amadou. Even though Le Forester is not touched by Amadou or Ambelain resurgent efforts, the Man of Desire was read by Amadou, which he considered very, very important. So the altars of Belial. Every day my thought will circumnavigate the earth to overflow the altars of Belial, those living altars in death, which have the fatal power to be reborn from their own debris. Every day I will drip up the poisoned springs that flow in those regions of iniquity, and every day I will invoke the spirit of wisdom and prudence to sit in the councils of princes and legislators of nations. Begin by restoring peace to your souls, unity to your minds, harmony and concord among the entire human family. Even the angels themselves will join in your hymns and songs. Because peace and holiness are the joy of the Lord, just as they are the joy of humankind, and because the holy ark takes up its dwelling amidst the joys of the chosen. Lord, multiply the priests in Israel, multiply the holy nation, and remember that humankind is your chosen people. Make them fill the earth with your works, and let no traces be seen except the footprints of your people. So it's really short. And I'll show you an image that led me to this kind of contemplative journey. Now, I don't know what stage of the degrees this is. I'm definitely doing some exorcistic work. So, could it be the apprentice Roquois? I don't know. Could it be just the red band and getting into the priestly function? I don't know. Could it be the purgation of yourself of all impurities that are encountered in the black band? I don't know. But what I do know is that it is indicative of the process of the Elu Cohen. I mean, it could just be the third degree of being in God's will and not knowing what's going to happen. All of these stages are important to take and notice and identify on the journey to your reintegration of yourself. So I got to this kind of thinking by this image over here. I had a friend on being reintegrated that saw the podcast and said, "Hey Tim, let me help you out. I'm going to show you this image," which is actually on the book. Let me get the volume here. I just bought it, but it's not foreign to me. What We Have Been, What We Are, and What We Will Become of Pierre Fournier's, translated by my M.R. Osborne. So it's a really good book, but on the cover you'll see this image, and this is what I was missing, which is essentially what I wrote in my commentary on the new book that I'm writing, which is about the new mythology of the treaties of reintegration. My whole time being an Elu Cohen enthusiast and now a researcher and potentially a scholar, I've never been given anything like Le Forester, which is a literal commentary on the Elu Cohen and a commentary on the treaties of reintegration of beings. So it starts by giving the pneumatology, which is the understanding of the soul, and the treaties of reintegration of beings, in the words of Martinez or Martinez's secretary. I won't go into that, which was also translated by M.R. Osborne. These are really, really good works, and so I would pick them up if you don't already have them. I mean, if you're on being reintegrated, these books are pretty much essentials in your library. You're not going to go wrong, and the entire new commentary that I'm writing on Le Forester is to show you how to mark yourself in the process of this work. Anyway, this diagram was shown to me by a friend who gave me a commentary by an academic. I'm not going to name names, but you'll see why this is important. And it immediately showed me the psychology applied of Jungian analysis. That basically what happens is we are given a glorious manifestation of what is talked about in the treaties of reintegration of beings. And that glorious manifestation is in our bone level, in our blood, in our bones. And now in the book, it talks about these being the globals. So globules or globals. Anyway, they're the drops of blood. So even in one drop of blood, this level of reintegration is happening. What is above is like that which is below. So the treaties of reintegration, the text of Pierre Fournier, which I read from this academic scholar, he never finished the second part. So I said I was going to collaborate with Mr. Osborne on this material, and what I meant was I'm going to use this book right here, because when I show you books, it somehow messes up the whole picture of what we're doing. I'm going to use this book for commentary on what I believe and strongly believe to be the second volume of Pierre Fournier's treatise. Now, I put a lot of study into this, so I don't say that haphazardly where I'm just trying to make myself relevant. I mean, you're already on being reintegrated. This is already relevant to you. You don't need me. However, I did get there to put these books in your hand. So you'll see my books. You have the Elu Cohen instruction, or the Cohen instructions of Saint Martin. You have the Man of Desire from Saint Martin. Then you have the Images of Daniel Kramer, which is what the fourth chapter of the first volume of Le Forester is pretty much about. It's showing you how the doctrine of the passes and the manifestations that may happen to you visually, or it's also been said that they could come to you intellectually, so you can get poetic feelings, and you need these books to guide you. You really do. You could get the Man of Desire for free on academia.edu. And if you really want to, you can go find Daniel Kramer in the Old Latin. Now, what I've done is I've put the old, what was called the pericope, and that is a gathering of teachings. During the time of the Protestant Revolution, they didn't have the Gnosis. They didn't have the Gnostic Nag Hammadi. They only had the saints, which Martinus himself, practiced a form of Jesuit discernment and all that stuff, and turned into these rituals a lot of these saintly figures, and hoping that the saints would come and visit during the operations and prayers, which are intense prayer work on the actual pneumatology of the treatise of reintegration of beings. So it's profound stuff, but what I'm saying is that it didn't have the Gnostic twist to it that I put in the spiritual exercises of Daniel Kramer. It didn't have the understanding that comes from Jung's Eth Institute, which is how I framed this book. It didn't have all of them in English. You can only see the term in Latin. It's not going to tell you what it means. But you can look at the image, for free. I'm not trying to steal everything like some other people, from public sources, so I can say that, this is the definitive version. It's not the definitive version. It's a work in progress. But this is the visual, and this is the poetic version of what you may be receiving as intellectual and visual passes. You may not be the type that has apparitions that come up in your mind, and that's what Le Forester says, is that to those who fervently did the work, sometimes they just got goosebumps when they did it. They got a special kind of reaction to them, which I've known some very diligent people to have the same kind of manifestations of lechos in their work. So the point is that wherever you are, this work will come and give you a sense of abnormality, which means that you're doing the right thing. So the abnormality that you may get is a psychological abnormality. The psychological abnormality is the convincing of you that people are against you. You have persecutory delusions. You might be in this psychological place where you feel like you are special and no one recognizes your specialness. That's what the work of Pierre Fournier was doing. It was showing psychology before there was psychology in the 18th century. So Freud and, even William James wasn't existing at this time. They only just threw people in loony bins and was like, this is what's going on. Hopefully you'll make it. So what this is a form of religious spiritual psychology with occultists and people who have become psychologically and socially aberrant, so you can give them a little bit of help to get back into normative function, which is what they talk about in the work of Jordan Peterson, and a lot of different modern psychologists talk about this. Most of the ego psychology is to build you up in your everyday personal life so you can function enough to gain resources and things for yourself, and then call yourself normal. But if you're one of these people who are inclined to be spiritual rather than materialistic, you'll start to suffer from this stuff shown here. And if you do, then you're in a place where you can start to experience the reintegration of your actual powers. It's profoundly amazing stuff. And I wanted to show it on Being Reintegrated, have a central place for the literature, for the explanations, for the scholarly research, not so much rituals and operations, because what you're getting is a beyond the ritual and operation kind of view of the actual practice of an Elukoan adept, we'll say in quotes. So you're going to get a view of the treatise of reintegration of beings. You're going to get some resources, which I'm not going to be here and just keep selling to you. But there are some investments you got to make, tiny investments into the literature that we're talking about on Being Reintegrated. So I'm working on making the commentary of LaForester available because it doesn't have to deal with resurgent orders, including revisionist orders, and the order that was put to sleep in the 1950s by Ivan Molska. He was like, the Elukoan is dead. But what I'm saying here is that we have practiced a sort of necromancy on the tradition itself, and you are getting, for the first time in history, a comprehensive view with practices and resources on the journey of a Rokwa. So welcome to Being Reintegrated. That's the goal. That's the map ahead. So, maybe help support the site. Donate if you can on Patreon. Become a subscriber. And, this is a work in progress. It's not just, all these videos are made at once. I need your help to be able to keep making them for you. Keep making books. To make this the best and most central place for knowledge and experience and resources on the Elukoan. So thanks so much for coming and taking a look at this episode.